record. Hello and welcome to the introductory DONORSCAPE webinar training. We're off to a good start, my friends. My name is Kat Banakis, and I am the manager for client engagement and support at Grenzenbach Gleer and Associates Analytics.
And I'm Colin Daniels, a data analyst at GGNA.
Today we're going to be going over some of the introductory features of DONORSCAPE, including accessing DONORSCAPE, interpreting a prospect record, verifying matched data, querying for lists of prospects, and exporting data.
We'll be answering your questions throughout this webinar. To submit a question, hover over the green bar at the top of your screen and press on the chat button or the Q&A button and direct your questions towards me, the host. Any questions that we aren't able to get to during the session will be answered as part of the follow-up transcript that will be emailed out to all registrants. Following this session, we'll send out a link to a recording, a transcript of answers to any questions, as well as a copy of our Getting Started with DONORSCAPE guide. At any point during the webinar you are experiencing technical difficulties, please email our colleague Heather McCown at hmccoun@grenzglier.com. That's hmccoun@grenzglier.com. Or call our meeting provider, WebEx, directly at 866-229-3239. That's 866-229-3239.
And finally, I need to tell you that all names presented during GGNA DONORSCAPE training sessions, including today, are from public records and bear no relationship to any GGNA client institutions. The names have been appended with fictional giving and relationship data and are included for demonstration purposes only. And as we're going through today's session, we love to receive your questions. There are a lot of you on the call today, and we're going to try to get to all of the questions that we possibly can, but the more interaction you offer, the better this session is going to be. So please do write in and ask us things on the chat function, and we promise from the bottom of our hearts that we will not say anything embarrassing like, Colin has a really odd question, Colin at GGNA. So we will preserve your anonymity in your questions. So, Colin, will you start us off with how to access the DONORSCAPE system?
All right. So to get started, we need to actually go to the DONORSCAPE site, which the URL of which is www.mydonorscape.com. And once you get to this page, there's a few things I want to point out. The first is username, password, client support number, email, as well as the security of the page, which is 128-bit encryption. It's used by banks and the like to keep your client information secure. You can see it up here if you're using Chrome, or you can also look at this trustee as well as VeriSign logos in the bottom right to make sure that you're on the right site. So now we're going to log into our account, which is KVTrain, and enter our password.
You can have as many usernames and passwords as you'd like for your account, but only one person at a time can be logged in as the same username. So if you're going to have multiple users, you want to be sure to have multiple usernames so you're not bouncing one another out.
All right, so this is our home page of our DONORSCAPE once we log in. Right here we can see the news and updates for DONORSCAPE. It has, well, the news and updates for related to DONORSCAPE. There's a new blog post and stuff about the webinar. Over here you can see information related to your contract, such as your searches remaining. That's how many new prospects you can put into the system, as well as your expiration of your account. Looking up here, we'll go over the tabs. First is the Home tab. Second is the Data Results, which is where you view your prospects and the information that DONORSCAPE has found for them, including their wealth capacity ratings, as well as any other information. The search tab is a little bit special in that DONORSCAPE refers to adding new prospects as searching rather than adding or something else. But in this, you have individual prospect search as well as adding multiples in Express Upload, which will be covered in the advanced webinar, which is right after this one. Preferences is the preferences for your account, such as contact information, password, and stuff like that. Administration contains, if you're the administrator for your account, you can add or delete users, that will also be covered during the advanced webinar. You can define things like your client-defined fields, as well as do things like prospect assignments and prospect updates, both of which will be covered in the next webinar. There's also a match and usage, which is used for administration, gives you information about the usage of your accounts and users, as well as the option to export all of your data if you want that. And over on the right here, we have demo videos, and you can view those. They explain some things about DONORSCAPE. And there is also a link to the support site and logging off your DONORSCAPE account.
Fantastic. So the heart and soul of what we do in DONORSCAPE is located here under the Data Results tab. This is going to have all of the information about the prospects that you've loaded into the system. And this tab here is where we're going to be spending the bulk of our time today. Now, when you first click on this tab, you have looking at you a smorgasbord of information. So I want to direct your attention down to the bottom here, the bottom right, where it says that we're looking at 1 through 15 of 9,988 possible prospects. So when you first log in, it's going to give you the first 15 records of your top 10,000 prospects. If I had more than 10,000 here, say I had 100,000 records in the system, it would say 1 through 15, that's how many you're looking at on the first immediate screen, and then 10,000 of 100,000. We only have 9,000 and change in this account, so that's what it's defaulting to. And then if we look up in the upper right-hand corner, here we see a highlight of information on the person who's highlighted in orange. So they're magnified up here in the left for whoever is highlighted here in orange. If we were to click on another prospect, Stuart Armstrong, his name pops up here in the upper left-hand corner. And it tells us by looking here his name and address, his prospect ID, which in most cases is the ID number in your donor management system, the date he was inserted, and the last date he was updated. If we click on the View Prospect Details button, it's going to bring up everything that the client inserted, so you as an institution submitted to the system about this prospect. So the client institution submitted for Stuart Armstrong his home address. There's no past giving information. If we had it, it would include his spouse information, his employer, his place of employment, if it was a university, his school affiliation, any additional seasonal addresses, and then anything that is of interest to you as an institution to be able to pull by. So whether he's a member, if he's active, if he's a gala attendee, any number of things are listed here in these miscellaneous text fields by client. So if we go back, I'm just going to change this and I'll explain what I did in just a moment. But the logic of DONORSCAPE is that it takes everything that you enter about a given prospect. Their name, their address, any employer and business information you have about them, additional properties, their family information, and it runs them against 12 publicly available databases that provide information on their hard assets, on their biography, and on their philanthropic background. And by running them against these 12 databases, it creates a profile of giving for this prospect. And that profile of giving is given one of 9 gift capacity ratings, with 1 being at the very top and 9 as unable to rate insufficient data. 8 is actually the lowest giving category. And each of these numbers, 1 through 9, corresponds to a gift capacity estimate of how much that a person with that profile could give over the next 5 years to all philanthropic institutions. So here for Peter Nolan, with a gift capacity rating of 1, we're projecting that he has the profile of somebody who could give $5 million a year over the next 5 years to all causes that he cares about. If we look at Mike Kaufman, he has a gift capacity rating of 2, and that's going to correspond to a projected ability to give somewhere between $1 million and $10 million over 5 years, or $200,000 and $2 million a year over 5 years to all institutions that Mr. Kaufman cares about. And each of the brackets, 1 through 8, corresponds to a range of giving over 5 years. Any questions about that? All right, we are looking good. So I just want to go over quickly the different vendor sources that we use to help create this profile. And to do that, I want to look specifically at Peter Nolan. What we know about him is that he has a property in Seal Beach, California. And let's see if we know anything else about him. It's the Seal Beach property. We don't have spouse or giving information, and he doesn't have an assigned solicitor. We do have one question. What is that, Colin?
They're wondering if the capacity rating is over 5 years total, or is this per year over 5 years?
The gift capacity rating is over 5 years total. So if we go back to someone with a gift capacity rating of 2, we're saying that they could give somewhere between $1 million and $10 million over 5 years. So it would be $200,000 a year for each of 5 years, adding up to $1 million total for the 5 years at the low end of the bracket. Excellent question. Okay, so going back up to Peter Nolan and his home in Seal Beach, let's just go through these 12 vendor tabs quickly. Walton Director is a listing of people who sit on corporate, nonprofit, and foundation boards. So here we have a Peter Nolan who sits on the board of the Children's Bureau Foundation in LA. Waltman Donor is a collection of annual reports of nonprofit institutions. So it's going to pull from the annual giving reports that all of you, I'm sure, produce in some capacity for giving in the past year. Our real estate vendor is LexisNexis Real Properties, and Real Properties is based on quarterly county assessor reports. So you can see here we have the Seal Beach property, which is assessed at about 1.2, 1.3 million, single-family home. And we also have a property located on 15 River Street in Boston, Massachusetts, but that has a mailing address of the Seal Beach address that we entered. So the Lexis is going to pull in all of the properties that tie to the tax bill mailing address that was entered. Dun & Bradstreet is a corporate background information source, and it's going to identify people with business ownership, equity, and leadership positions at both public and private companies. And here we have a West Rackman Storage Systems in Thousand Oaks, California. GuideStar Public is taken from the 990 tax returns of nonprofit institutions, which I'm sure many of you file and require you to list everyone who sits on your board of directors. And so here we have a Peter J. Noland sitting on the Children's Bureau Foundation. And we just had a question come in.
They're wondering how the database deals with the fact that there were a number of Peter Nolans with different middle initials. Yes,
excellent. And that is a wonderful point, that we are seeing people with different middle initials and therefore different individuals, which is a wonderful question, and I'm going to get to it in just a second. So if you can hold on to that one, it is very important and it gets us into the next segment. So hold that thought. GuideStar Public is the public 990s. GuideStar Private is private family foundations from their 991 tax returns. SEC Insider is our source for stock holdings, and you can see them either by individual trade or by summary. The stock holding is only going to pick up transactions for people who own more than 10% of stock or are officers or directors of publicly traded companies. So it's not going to pick up all of an individual stock transactions by any means, just those where you are considered an insider within the trading world. Market Guide is produced by Reuters, and it provides background information on corporate profiles as well as information about salary and bonus when available. It's going to give a bit more narrative than Dun & Bradstreet is in terms of both what the company is and an individual's biography at the company. Marquis, and it is indeed pronounced Marquis and not Marquis, is a collection of who's who guides from across the country and across different topics. So when you click on the different radio buttons, you see we have family info. So a Peter S. Nolan is the son of Frank and Mary Elizabeth Flanagan and has a son named Kevin. Positions held. It's going to give corporate background. It'll give information on their creative works. He was a contributor to professional journals. Larkspur is background on pension information and provides pension holding dollars when it's a self-employed individual, and just pension information in general is a descriptive when it is a larger company. Corp Tech is very similar to Market Guide and Dun & Bradstreet, except it refers only to high-tech companies. And SEC is the Federal Election Campaign Contribution Record as required by law, and provides information on contributions to federal campaigns, and therefore offers a perspective on their past giving. So the question of the middle initial leads us perfectly into what we're talking about in this next segment, which is I want to highlight just Peter Nolan here, so we're looking only at him. And to highlight one person at a time, I'm going to use the quick query function in the bottom left-hand corner. And it's going to pull up just Peter. You can do that by prospect ID or by first name or last name, and it's going to pull up just those people with those qualifications. And you'll see here, scattered throughout his record, these S's and P's and E's, and those correspond to this bottom label here of exact, near, possible, and simple. And these are the verification match quality ratings that we are able to attribute between the Peter Nolan entered into the system by the institution and all of the Peter Nolans found in these client databases. So if we go here to Peter Nolan at 203 2nd Street, Seal Beach, we see that he has an exact match in real estate. We've got a Peter Nolan, Seal Beach, and up here in the box here, we can see all of the different issues that it's matching on. First name, last name, home street, home city, home state, home zip, and home metropolitan statistic area. That's giving him an exact match on this piece of data. And if we look at the other record under real estate, it's coming up with this equally exact match. From this, we are able to determine not only that he has this piece of real estate, but that we're dealing with Peter M. Nolan, not the Peter J, the Peter F, the Peter N's, the Peter S's, all of the other middle initials we've seen throughout this. Our person is Peter M. Nolan. So then if we go back and we look at the record for Waltman Director, and we pull it up, this is a Peter J. Nolan, not our guy. Our guy is Peter M. Nolan. So even though this is a Peter Nolan who's matching at first name, last name, and home state, even region within Southern California, this is not the same Peter Nolan. So we can tell the system not to include this piece of data. And we can tell that to the system in a couple ways. One is that we can tell the system to delete this match entirely. Tell it not to send to a graveyard the Waltman Director match here for Peter J. Nolan. The other thing that we can do is we could, if it had a higher rating than this simple, if it were a possible match, we could change the match quality rating from a possible to a simple over here. And let's look at that in Waltman Donor here. We have a bunch of possible and simple matches. We don't have middle initials on all of them, but here we do. For this Peter J. Nolan, we know that we want Peter M. Nolan. So we're going to change, we could change it from a possible to a simple match. And we would need to do that for all of the data within this individual's record. But from the very beginning, you can limit how much data you want brought in about this possible prospect by changing the match quality rating that you start from. So right now we have it set at exact, near, possible, and simple to bring in all possible data about Peter Nolan's. And we can change it to bring in only exact and near data, or exact data only, which is going to cause all of the possible and simple matches to drop out, and then it's only including his real estate data. Now, I should say that we would get more exact and exact near matches from the get-go if we had known what his middle initial was to start with. But since we didn't have that to start from, we have to do a little more verification on his record. and we have a couple questions related to that. First question, does changing the match quality rating affect the gift capacity rating? Why, yes. Thank you for asking. So, as you see, when we had Peter Nolan set at exact, near, possible, and simple, we went from a gift capacity rating of 1 of more than 10 million over 5 years to a gift capacity rating of 5 of between 25,000 and 999,000 over 5 years when we include only exact and near information. And you can also see what's driving that score if you look under the custom ratings calculator. So when we have it set at exact, near, possible, and simple, where we're bringing in his whole possible universe of data, it's attributing income of 500,000 and more, real estate, FEC donations, SEC, all of that. Whereas if we change it to just exact and near and look at his custom ratings calculator, we see that the only thing that's contributing to that is his real estate. Okay, second question. What's the difference between an exact and near match and an exact match? Most near matches are going to be spouse information. So if we had loaded in for Peter Nolan under his view prospect details, and I can try and get to that. Here we go. If we had had a spouse loaded here and we knew that he was married to Mary and they had the same address and everything like that, but I was looking under Peter's record, then I could very likely have a near match for a property or a donation from the same address but that's connected to Mary. So it's usually going to be a spouse match or something like that. Or sometimes it's a kin match. So if there is a home that's in the estate of Peter Nolan, but it's actually owned by David Nolan, who's his son, I'm completely making these names up. But it's usually a family match at the near match. So going back quickly to impacting their scores based on how much information we bring in, I want to look here at the custom ratings calculator one more time, because this tool is going to show you not only what's driving their score, but also ways that you could run a hypothetical on it. So for Mr. Nolan, we have at the exact level that he has 1.68 million in real estate. But if you knew somehow that one of his pieces of property was in foreclosure, he wasn't actually worth that much, and the piece of property that is in foreclosure has been sold, and all he's left with is 500,000 in real estate. And there's only one piece of property. Totally hypothetical. And we click recalculate. It's going to, okay, because I didn't put 500,000. That's the problem. 500,000. There we go. And one piece of real estate, and we click recalculate. His score goes from a 5 down to a 6 in this hypothetical rescoring. It's not going to change his permanent score. It's just going to change the score here where you can run possible recalculations. Likewise, if he were to give a $100,000 gift, and we were to recalculate it with that, it's going to improve his score then to a 4. But these aren't permanent changes. It's just what we would do in a hypothetical as you're going through and verifying the data. In our more advanced training session, we do go through how to change their scores, how to change the information about them in terms of their giving history and everything like that. So let's quickly review here what we've gone over. We've looked at how we determine the gift capacity rating and what it means based on the verification and the information that you load in about your prospect and running it against the 12 databases. We've looked at how the amount of information that you include can affect their gift capacity rating. And we've looked at how important a middle initial can be and what that is going to impact about them. We mentioned earlier in the very beginning when we looked at the new news and updates that we have a blog that talks about how to best use this data. And one of the blog posts I wrote a couple weeks ago is about the process of doing data verification. So if you want a little bit more narrative about how you would go through and look at this data to verify it one against the other, I encourage you to look at donorscape.com/blog. And for a visual recap here, I'm going to click one of these reports under Mr. Nolan. The summary report is going to give us just a one-pager on him. The full report is going to give us all of the possible information about him in extended format. I'm going to click Tear Sheet, which is going to give us a medium-level report. All of these reports come out in Microsoft Word format for the prospect-by-prospect reports so that you can see this information and modify it to however you prepare your background reports for your gift officers. So you can cut and paste and modify easily. So here we have Mr. Nolan in Seal Beach, his Lexus holdings, his household information, his FEC contributions, and stock transactions. Now that we have looked at how to pull all of the information and interpret and verify an individual prospect record, I want to move on to how we pull lists of prospects from within your entire universe. And we're going to do that through the function that's referred to as the custom query. As Colin mentioned at the beginning, one might think, and reasonably so, that the search tab is how you search for prospects within the system. But au contraire, you actually use custom query to find your prospects within your existing database. Search is loading new people into the system. So we have here the custom query function. And we can do a quick query if we want to just look up one name or one prospect ID. But to pull lists of people, we're going to do that under the custom query, which is just one to the right from our main constituent list. And then we pull these lists together by using Boolean connectors. So it offers you a whole range of things that you can use to narrow the scope of your universe. And to start, I want to pull, for example, people in a given geographic area. So I'm going to start with constituent information, and then I want to pull people just in California. So I'm going to say constituent information, state, and then I'm going to say equal to CA. And I want to run this query, so first I have to give it a name. I'm going to say CA givers, not goobers, givers. And I can choose to either share this query with my colleagues at my institution or have me as the only person who can see it. I'm just going to keep it as mine for right now because I'm experimenting. Then we click Save and Run. And you'll know that you've written a query that is written properly if it populates with a subset of names. If it just keeps spinning and spinning, or it comes up and it says 0, then your query wasn't written correctly. And in those cases, just contact the support team here and we'll help you to write it correctly. So here we have that there are 1,515 people of the 9,988 who have a home state of California. And it's going to auto-populate to show the first 15 of those. And we can limit this further to say I want people who are in the state of California and people with just a gift capacity rating. So this score up here of 1 through 4. So just those who can give 100,000 or more over 5 years. And to do that, I'm going to say gift capacity rating in 1, 2, 3, or 4. And to do that, we connect with commas of in 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you, Chrome, for remembering me. And I'm going to give it the name CA Givers 1 through 4, and save and run. Now, this is going to give us 84 people who have a gift capacity rating of 1 through 4. But that number is going to change because this gift capacity rating is changed to the match quality rating. So if I click exact and near, then it's going to reduce that number of people to 18. So only 18 people have a gift capacity rating of 1 through 4 at the exact near level who also live in California. Any questions about pulling this query function? All right, we are looking good on that. Colin, would you explain how we get these records out of the system?
All right, so it's, sorry.
So what we want to do is we're going to go into exporting these 18 records. So once you have the query you want pulled up, then we're going to export them through the custom report builder.
All right, so to actually export these, we go to this tab right here called Custom Report Builder. Click on it, and we have a few different options for what form we want the data to be in. Comma delimited constituent list export, which is in table form. You can open it with Excel and view it that way. There is individual prospect report, which only reports on your active constituent up here, as well as a report for the entire query that you have.
So if we were to click on the top radio button, it's going to spit out something like an Excel spreadsheet. If we click on the second radio button, it's going to spit out a one-page Word doc, similar to the tear sheet that we looked at earlier. But here, when you click off all the little boxes, you can specify what data you want that report to have. And then if we were to click on the third button, it's going to spit out a separate Word document with the data that you specify, but it's going to spit out 18 separate Word documents because there are 18 people populating the query. And we're always going to start from the query that you have pulled up. So here we see that we're starting from the query titled CA Givers 1 to 4, and that is going to be the population that is being exported out in this function.
For the comma delimited constituent list export, you check the boxes of the information you want, and then you will press the donor
Yeah, so this is we're telling the system what information we want in the table. So down the left-hand column, it's going to give us the client prospect IDs, and then we're telling them everything else that we want the report to include.
And then after you select everything you want the report to include, you press the Generate Report button, and it will show up right here that is generating the report, and when it's done, just press the Download button. It will, however, download as a text file. The easiest way to get it into a form that can be opened by Excel or something similar is just to change the extension, which is delete TXT off of the end and replace it with CSV. If you don't want to do that, you can just go into Excel. Excel will open it. It has some options for interpreting it, but the easiest way is just to change the extension of the file.
Yeah, so it's going to process about 500 records in a minute, and so we're only doing 18. It won't take very long at all, but there's a quirky thing here where it won't tell you that it's ready unless you re-click this button. Hello, now it tells us it's ready to download, or you can click away. If you're going to be exporting a really large file, go ahead and tell it, yes, generate report. It'll tell you, we'll let you know when it's ready, and then you can log off the system, you can go have lunch, you can go home for the weekend. The system will keep generating the report, and then it'll have the report ready to download when you come back. So when the report is ready to download, after you've clicked away to a different window or re-clicked on the custom report builder, then it'll let you download your file.
All right. So first we're going to download this file. We see that is in a TXT. To save it as a CSV, which is what we want, all we really need to do is save it as all files and change the thing on the end here to CSV.
You still have a T.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah.
Wait.
So we're changing it from a TXT or a text file into a comma-separated version file, which looks less like a crazy mass of data.
All right. So close that, and if we want to take a look for the file now, it is right here. You can just double-click. It will open up in Excel or whatever it's associated with, and we can see the table of information we have here that we selected for download. We can see the exact real estate numbers as well as the address and phone information of our prospects.
Fantastic. And this frequently exporting into Excel is going to be one of the easier ways that you can sort the data, or that you're going to be, oops, sorry about that, friends, using the data either to sort it or to import it into the daily donor management system that you use. Once you have the data verified, you feel comfortable with these scores and giving ranges, your normal day-to-day donor management system is going to be more expedient for where you want to store these records. So in the remaining few minutes we have, I want to look quickly at two features. One is the notes, and this is where you can put in notes about what you've done in terms of your verification process. You can query on keywords that you've entered within the notes. So here I could put Peter M. Nolan, middle initial verified. I'll click Save, and then my username is going to pop up here with the note beside it, so that you can keep track of what you've verified about your prospect. If we click here under the Who Knows Who function, This is going to pull up a list of all people who have common background, institutions, and experiences with this prospect based on the vendor tables. So Kenneth Ikeda is known to have a GuideStar public rating and sit on the board of directors of Bay Area Video Coalition, as well as some other organizations. And here it's going to list everyone else who's also on those boards of directors. If any of these people who were also on the Video Coalition board was a prospect within my system, it would have a little Y here. So this is a really neat way to be able to try and figure out networks within your donor database, and also ways that you might be able to initiate relationships with donors that you don't yet have a connection to. And question, are the relationships under GuideStar sortable by years? Not in this format. It is sortable by institution and by years, but it requires us to do an export match. We're doing a full training on that, and thank you for the plug for our webinars. We're doing a full training on that on September 15th. And that'll go over how you can sort by nonprofit types within GuideStar, how you can sort by employer name, and also if you wanted to do something specific, like everyone who has a second property in Nantucket because you're running an event in Nantucket. There are ways that you can do sorts within it by the vendor data, but that requires an export and a match. What we can do is we can sort by people who have matches, period, in any of these vendor databases. And it's going to do it alphabetically. So if I were to click Waltman Director, it's going to sort and pull all of the, let's do this by one that's more friendly. It would pull all of the exacts up to the top on Waltman Director. So here, let's do that for the real estate. And it's going to pull all of our exact real estate matches up to the top. And then as we scroll through, it will have then the near and the simple matches as we do that. So you can sort this automatically by clicking on any of these gray tabs, and it'll alpha sort by that. And we had another question. I'm so sorry. Somebody was asking a question, and it disappeared. I believe your first name was Mary. Okay. If you think of your question again, Mary, send it to our host, and we will get you hooked up there. So in these remaining few minutes that we have left, I just want to quickly recap that the way that we isolate a subset of your universe is through the, yes, Mary, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to highlight this on here, and I don't need to do that, but it was...
It's not sure.
Oh, good. Okay, super. Thank you. When downloading the individual... Okay, yes. Thank you, my friend. Okay, super. So when we download... she was asking about downloading the individual reports, and when they come out, do we need to resave them? So we had to resave the big data table because it came out as TXT, which you can certainly just save as TXT. It's just hard to manipulate. But when we pull out the other kinds of tables, either here by clicking on tear sheet, and it comes up as Word, or if we were to go to Custom Report Builder and do an individual prospect report for this highlighted person, would we need to resave it as something else? And the short answer is no. It's just going to come out as a Word doc. So you would need to save it, period, to be able to access it again. But it's going to come out as Word. So here I'm going to tell it to select everything, tell me everything, and then I clicked suppress empty fields so you don't just come out with a lot of blank fields. And then I'm going to have it generate the report. And it's going to come out as just a basic Word document that then you can save to your desktop or a file or something like that, but you don't have to change the format type. And if I had told it to do the third kind of report, the individual prospects, or the prospect report for all in constituent lists, it would spit out 18 different Word docs in a zip file. So here we have Billy Martin in Anza, California, all of his Waltman donor history, all of his possible different property history, and it's very big. But it's in a standard Word doc formula or format. Okay, well, we are coming to the end of our time. Thank you all so very much for participating. If you have any remaining questions, we will leave the chat function open for the next 5 or 10 minutes here. If after this session something occurs to you that you meant to ask, just send us an email at support@donorscape.com or send us a call. Give us a call at our 1-866 number, and we will be sure to include your question in our follow-up email that we'll be sending out this afternoon. If you feel like you would like to have more DonorScape, that you want to know about how to load new prospects into the system or update information about existing prospects, we have another webinar in 30 minutes that will go over just that. Colin and I will be back with better than ever advanced training. And as we mentioned earlier, our September 15th webinar is going to go over data match sets for sorting your data tables. So thank you all for participating. We've had a great time with you, and we look forward to working with you in the future on all of your DonorScape data needs.
You'll also be receiving 2 surveys following the closing of the session. One is from the meeting provider, WebEx, about the technical aspects of the webinar, and one's from us about how we can improve our training and any ideas you may have for future sessions. We would really appreciate your feedback on how to make these most helpful to you.
This is an evolving process, and we want to make sure that we're offering the most relevant training. So if you have ideas of what would be helpful in the future, do let us know. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.